Down. Hey, how you guys doing? It's Shadow at Night. Welcome to the show. Friday, October the 24th. Second last Friday, we're going to be live on social media, and then we move to the website. So the show will continue to exist on the website, shadowdavis.com, for all access members. And if you want to become an all access member, that's absolutely cool. Go and sign up at shadowdavis.com. And don't forget, if you're going to do that, make sure that you join the Telegram group, which is called the Shadow at Night Community. And if you don't know how to find it and you're a member, You can send me a message or an email at shadowdavis@gmail.com, and I'll happily send you the link for that so you can take part in the community back there, the Shadow at Night community on Telegram. And don't forget to become an all-access member at shadowdavis.com. Premier Buffoon has backed down again. Doug Ford. You know, it's funny because last night in the extension, I was watching the show. Very, very fascinating content on last night. I'm watching it. I'm doing some other things with the other social media, editing video and whatnot. And then I started to notice a lot of people in the Telegram group chatting, Doug Ford's a dink. Doug Ford's this, Doug Ford's that. And I thought, Doug Ford? He's not in the news today. Did I miss something? And so I went looking. Oh, wow. So here's what happened. Donald Trump suspended all trade talks with Canada because of Doug Ford. And we're going to get into that in just a couple of minutes. It's fascinating. This guy, this Ford fella, this Premier Buffoon suffers from a profound case of TDS. It's absolutely amazing to watch, really. And we're going to get into all of it and Doug Ford's greatest hits from this past year in just a couple of minutes. The Shadow at Night live stream is brought to you by CanadaNanoSilver.com.
Silver is amazing. It has several natural health benefits, and it's been used for hundreds of years for health and healing. That's the main reason they made silverware from silver. But seriously, this nano silver from Silverceuticals is the best and safest silver you can find. There are hundreds of studies and reports on it. I've read some of the studies myself, and it's mind-blowing. One of the things that sets Silverceuticals apart is that it washes out of your body in 24 hours. No silver buildup and no turning blue. And it won't even harm the good bacteria your body needs. It's so effective they can use very small concentrations of silver, like 10 and 32 parts per million, and still outperform other silvers that have up to 3,000 parts per million. It's safer and more effective at the same time. It is an incredibly small particle that is small enough to work through your body, but big enough not to fall out of suspension. They infuse it into almost all of their products. It works in facial serums, toothpaste, gels, and even gummies that work to help your immune system.
204-808-9292. Get the gummies if you're going to make a purchase today or tomorrow, this weekend, whatever. Make sure you get the gummies. They're really good, and they keep your system ready to rock and roll, fight against all of the bugs that are flying around this time of year. It is cold and flu season after all. 204-808-9292 or CanadaNanoSilver.com. I noticed a smaller audience tonight, significantly so. And I'm wondering, is that because we've got hockey games going on and we've also got the World Series with the Toronto Blue Jays? Is it because people are so interested in the bread and circuses that they forget they're in a war? It's okay to distract yourself from time to time. But does it really matter in the long run? I can tell you, I used to be such a Blue Bombers fan that when they lost, I was in a bad mood for 2 or 3 days after that. That was years and years ago. And ever since COVID and all of the nonsense that the Blue Bomber organization, the Jets organization, pretty much every professional sports franchise in North America went along with, I have no interest in watching that stuff anymore. I don't care about it. Super Bowl, Grey Cup, Stanley Cup, I don't care. I simply don't. I hear about it secondhand through buddies. Oh, Jets are doing great this year. Are they? I don't even know. I don't care. Who's on the team? I think I know 3 or 4 guys on the team. And I found this video to be very interesting.
I wonder why they pay athletes hundreds of millions just to play a game. Has it ever occurred to you that it's not about talent? It's about the deal being made behind the scenes. They're not buying performance. They're buying your attention. That's the trick. They don't need chariots or lions anymore, just stadium lights, screaming fans, and fantasy leagues. It's the same playbook the Roman emperors used when the people started getting restless. Give them blood sport, give them noise, keep them entertained and stupid. Because while you're glued to game night, the real rulers, the unelected ones, they're meeting in private jets behind locked doors, deciding what your kids will eat in 2030. You won't hear about that on the news, but let 5 basketball players unfollow each other on Instagram and suddenly it's breaking news. People cry when their team loses, but they don't even blink when trillion-dollar policies are passed overnight. You think that's an accident? It's not just distraction. It's engineered silence, a perfectly designed circus, and you're clapping in your seat thinking you're free. But let me ask you, when was the last time you questioned the men behind the curtain? Oh wait, you were too busy watching the halftime show.
This is just a theory, not a fact.
You have to throw that in, depending on what social media platform you're on. Or oh, you can't say that. It's a lie. It's never been proven. I'm going to shut your channel down. This is a theory, not a fact. This is for entertainment purposes only. Let's go say some hellos real quick. Leanne is here tonight. She's an All Access member. We see her regularly in the after show, in the extension, in the Telegram group. Hello, Freedom Lynn, watching in Niagara. You're in the news tonight. Stirring the Pot 101 is watching on X from Hamilton. Hello, Jonathan in Ohio, watching on YouTube. Michael is watching in Brampton. Vicky in Nova Scotia. Hello, Debbie in Kipling, Saskatchewan. Edie is watching tonight as well. Janet's on Facebook in Aurelia. Hello, Petronella, watching in Pine Tree. Tracy is watching in Gilbert, Arizona tonight. And over on Rumble, we've got Rico Suarez, Stump Slayer, Uniaki, Amazing Faces, Ruby Begonia, Risnan. Who else is here? Goon, North Scotty, Nutsy, whatever platform you're watching on. And wherever you're watching from, guys, don't forget, like and share. Get this out to as many people as you possibly can. So last night, like I was saying, during the extension, I saw all these messages. Doug Ford's a buffoon. Doug Ford's an idiot. Doug Ford's a liberal. So the story is that Doug Ford ran a $75 million campaign, anti-tariff campaign in the United States. $75 million he spent running an anti-tariff campaign, ad campaign in the United States, using Ronald Reagan's speech from 1986 regarding his disdain for tariffs. Worldwide news, because Donald Trump said, wait a minute, hold on, he's doing what? And then I guess he saw the commercial and he decided he was going to suspend all trade talks with Canada. All trade talks. Gone. And like I said, worldwide news. This is ABC, the Australian broadcast company, the Australian version of the CBC. Watch this.
He's terminated all trade talks with Canada. What can you tell us?
Well, Ros, a Canadian social media video has gone viral. And as far as the United States is concerned, it's for all the wrong reasons. Now, the province of Ontario has released a video that purports, I guess, to make former US President Ronald Reagan say very negative things about tariffs. Now, Doug Ford is the creative mind behind this video, and he put supposedly 75 million Canadian dollars worth of money towards this video. But what's different about this video is that Ronald Reagan in this video is not actually, the actual speech he made wasn't negative towards tariffs. The video has since been edited to make it negative towards tariffs. So Donald Trump has picked this up and used it as an excuse to bar all trade negotiations from here with Canada. Now, what is also interesting, though, is that there's about $100 billion worth of trade between Canada and the United States. So it's a significant bit of news, I guess, if you like. It broke a couple of hours ago. But as far as overall trade negotiations are concerned, it'd be a much bigger story if it was China and the United States. That said, Donald Trump is known for his hyperbole, and even though the markets haven't reacted too much to this, the future may tell a different story.
Okay. So this morning, Obviously, the left-wing corporate media reporters, like a pack of wolves, went running for Doug Ford, and they found him. Here he is.
I heard that the president heard our ad. I'm sure he wasn't too happy, but it's real because it was coming from the best president the country's ever seen, Ronald Reagan. So it is. It's very effective. It's probably one of the best ads I've ever seen, and it's coming from Ronald Reagan's voice, and it's going to be focused on right across the country, but also in Republican-held areas, because what I feel, the Reagan Republicans are going to be fighting with a MAGA group, and let's hope Reagan Republicans.
Could that be construed as election interference? I know there's no election on right now, but there always seems to be an election going on in the United States. We got the midterms coming up next year, right? So did he just say that he's trying to influence the vote in the United States with these ads? Did he just say that? Whoa. And he misused or edited the speech Ronald Reagan made in the 1980s. Not to be outdone, the idiot premier of Manitoba had to get in on things.
Manitobans. Ontario's TV ads present Ronald Reagan's views on tariffs accurately and powerfully. President Trump's damaging tariffs go completely against Mr. Reagan's legacy. And it's clear that these ads are working. If you throw a rock at a lake and you don't hear a splash, you've probably missed. So to my good friend Doug Ford, keep the ads on TV. They're effective, and this country is behind you.
You don't speak for the country, dude. You barely speak for Manitoba. Mark Carney is going to some big trade conference this weekend in Kuala Lumpur. And just before he got on the plane, the reporters got to him.
All right, good morning. Look, for months we have stressed the importance of distinguishing things we can control and things we can't control. We can't control the trade policy of the United States. We recognize that that policy has fundamentally changed from the policy in the 1980s, 1990s, 2000s. And it's a situation where the United States has tariffs against every one of their trading partners to different degrees. And it's in that context that our officials, my colleagues, have been working with their American colleagues on detailed, constructive negotiations, discussions on specific transactions, specific sectors, steel, aluminum, and energy. And a lot of progress has been made. And we stand ready to pick up on that progress and build on that progress when the Americans are ready to have those discussions, because it will be for the benefit of workers in the United States, workers in Canada, and families in both of our countries. Now, what we can control, absolutely, is how we build here at home, and that's the focus of Budget 2025, generational investment here in Canada. And what we can also control, or at least heavily influence, is developing new partnerships and opportunities, including with the economic giants of Asia, which is the focus of this trip.
You can't control the behavior of your opponent. Sure you can. It's in The Art of War by Sun Tzu. However, in this case, it hasn't worked. Why on earth would you want to antagonize a giant? You say that you're having great talks and moving forward on trade with the United States, Mr. Carney. And then the idiot premier of Ontario decides that he wants to run some ads using the voice of Ronald Reagan, one of Donald Trump's heroes, to make a point about tariffs. But to make that point, you have to bastardize the speech that he made. So Ford and Carney had a conversation this morning. We'll get to that in just a second. But I guess they weren't listening when Donald Trump said this back in February.
Considering military force to annex and acquire Canada.
No. Economic force. We don't need anything they have. And I said that to, as I called him, Governor Trudeau. I said, listen, what would happen if we didn't subsidize you? He said Canada would dissolve. Canada wouldn't be able to function. We don't need their cars. We don't need the other products. We don't need their milk. We got a lot of milk. We got a lot of everything. And we don't need any of it. So I said to him, well, why are we doing it? He said, I don't really know. He was unable to answer the question.
Do you think he was playing around? Of course he wasn't. You guys, we are led by morons and buffoons in this country. That's all there is to it. There is no other explanation except to say that maybe this is being done on purpose. Oh, yes. I received many messages today. Shadow, don't fall for it. It's just an act. It's just a movie. We're watching a movie. Hey, that might be. I don't know. To what end? Why? I always ask. And I'm never able to get an answer for it. So we have to let it play out in front of us. But we're doing the right thing. And that is, we are questioning everything. We've got our eyes wide open here. Our eyes are wide open with this. Late this afternoon, after his conversation with Mark Carney, Ontario Premier Doug Ford caved and pulled, well, he hasn't pulled it yet, but he will be, pulls anti-tariff ad campaign after Trump ends trade negotiations with Canada. Caved less than 24 hours after Trump ended these negotiations. President Trump late Thursday evening announced all trade negotiations with Canada have been terminated after the government of Ontario created an ad campaign using selective audio of President Ronald Reagan speaking negatively about tariffs. Wob Canoe lied in his video too. Trump accused the government of Ontario of interfering with the Supreme Court's decision on his tariffs. The High Court is set to hear the oral arguments November 5th on Trump's tariffs after a lower court ruled they were illegal. The government of Ontario reportedly spent $75 million on the advertisement. The Ronald Reagan Foundation yesterday night responded to the government of Ontario's ad. The ad misrepresents the presidential radio address, and the government of Ontario did not seek nor receive permission to use and edit the remarks, they said. The Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation threatened to take legal action against the government of Ontario. Doug Ford immediately caved after Trump ended trade talks with Canada, but he won't pull the ads until Monday. Ford reportedly pulled the ads at the request of Mark Carney. Ford said, our intention was always to initiate a conversation about the kind of economy that Americans want to build and the impact of tariffs on workers and businesses. He continued, we achieved our goal, having reached U.S. audiences at the highest levels. I've directed my team, and it was all over X today, all the Democrats, all of the lefties on X. Oh, yeah, this ad is absolutely real and true, and Trump should be ashamed, and MAGA should all be hanging their heads. It's gone already. That's how fast the news cycle moves. I've directed my team to keep putting our message in front of Americans over the weekend so that we can air our commercial during the first two World Series games. So he capitulates, but then he has to have his little thing, right? In speaking with Mark Carney, in speaking with Prime Minister Carney, Ontario will pause its U.S. advertising campaign effective Monday so that trade talks can resume. He thinks it's going to be easy. He thinks it's going to go just like that after all of the nonsense that he's been doing for the past 6 or 7 months. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Doug Ford's greatest hits.
Canada's most populous territory, Ontario, and Premier Ford, as we mentioned, President Trump is now saying he is enacting a 50% tariff on steel and aluminum from Canada, which will go into effect tomorrow in response to your actions. What's your reaction?
Could it be lights out in part of the U.S.? Listen to what Doug Ford says.
I will do everything, including cut off their energy, with a smile on my face. You think the people of Ontario are that dumb? Like, I'm gonna call you out and get one of those cans. I'm gonna rip that label off and encourage people to buy made in Ontario, made in Canada soup. And maybe what you should do is bring back your manufacturing facility that you closed down in Etobicoke and got rid of hundreds of people. But I just can't stand sneaky companies that do stuff. I can assure you one thing: we're going to make sure that we inflict as much pain as possible to the American people without inflicting pain on the Canadian population. So you know something? A message to the CEO in France: you hurt my people, I'm going to hurt you. You're going to feel the pain in February when these people don't have a paycheck. And I'm going to stand up for the people of Ontario. And I encourage all of Canadians, all of Ontarians, stand up for the people. Because you don't know if you're next. But the thing that ticks me off, I get it. I get that companies move back and forth. But what I don't get, when you're someone's largest customer in North America, you're going after the largest customer. You know something?
What?
I always say smart people aren't too smart, and you guys are about as dumb as a bag of hammers for doing this. So, you know something? I found a bottle, and I don't even drink, of Crown Oil, right? I see that Crown Oil. I saw it at home. So this is what I think about Crown Oil. That's what they could do. And I think everyone...
I guess during this press conference, he was unaware that the distilling plant is in Gimli, Manitoba.
Everyone else should do the same thing. Start supporting companies that make whiskey here by Ontario people. That's what we need to do, is support each other. You know something? I'm going to make this even come out quicker.
How on earth can we have faith in any of our leadership when we have that guy as the premier of the largest province in the country? 16 million people live in Ontario, and that guy's the leader. And you want to know what? A poll came out, Abacus poll, about 3 or 4 days ago. Doug Ford's Progressive Conservatives lead the next closest party, the Liberals, by 25%. 50% of Ontarians polled said they would vote for the PCs in the next election. 25% Liberal. I think it's 20% for the NDP, and then other came in with 5%. But the reason that most people said they would vote for Doug Ford is because there's no reasonable alternative. They don't want to vote Liberal. They don't want to vote NDP, so they're stuck with Doug Ford. What if there was an alternative to the Doug Ford PCs? Like maybe the New Blue Party. I urge every Ontarian to check them out. Have you seen the angry Fight for Canada guy on YouTube? I have too, and I think he's a little bit angry. And his anger, when it comes to his presentation, I think drives a lot of people away, which is sad to me because he makes a lot of good points. Here he is talking about digital ID already being in Canada.
Traitors in the Canadian government have actually already passed a digital ID in Canada without giving the population any heads up whatsoever. If you log into My Services Canada right now, you cannot go through the process on anything without accepting so-called digital identity verification. If you read closely through the terms of services, unless you check a box saying you accept digital identity verification, you cannot complete any processes on My Services Canada webpage. This is a totally new thing to My Services Canada, and would anybody put it past the traitorous Canadian government that they would pass something like digital identification without even letting the population know? Hell, they've let 8 million people pour into the country, with 3 in 4 Canadians being against it. They've let criminals out of jail time and time again, with all Canadians, the vast majority of Canadians being against it. Democracy is essentially dead in Canada. This government does not listen to anything that the Canadian people want, whether it be economically, in terms of our healthcare, in terms of immigration. It's just in one ear, out the other, with Mark Carney and the Liberals the election was very, very odd, to say the least. But this takes it up another level. Digital IDs, which we have known for a long period of time are coming in Canada. Starmer, Carney, Macron, they're all the same globalist puppets who are looking to implement their essential digital banking services, their digital IDs, all this global BS to treat us like cattle and have more and more control over the population. It's Carney's whole play with these green initiatives, with these so-called carbon emission allowances where you're not allowed to start your vehicle or eat a piece of meat if you have gone over your allotment for the day. A total joke. But now in Canada, there has been nothing tabled in the House of Commons referring to digital IDs. Certainly there have been no bills passed whatsoever, but you go to the My Services webpage, Canada, and you complete any piece of paperwork. It will ask you under the consent form. You have to check a box off saying you allow for digital identity verification. We need answers, and we need answers immediately from this government as to what exactly that is a reference to, the digital identity verification, and whether or not digital IDs, without the Canadian population knowing it, have been passed in Canada. This is 1984 on steroids. We thought Bill C9, Bill C8 were terrible, giving the Canadian government the ability to unilaterally cut your internet service because an MP deems what you post to be offensive. I've experienced something very similar. Just got axed by the Canadian government on TikTok with 30,000 followers because they don't like what I say about our disastrous immigration system. Bill C8, which expands the definition of hate speech to include so-called fomentation of detestation, vilification. They want to be able to throw you in prison for life if a liberal claims that you so-called fomented hate and detestation. My God, you should see there's a lot of hate, a fomentation of hate and detestation on our streets right now by people that the liberals have clearly recently led in the country, screaming things like violent revolution and all the children's blood on your hands. I don't really see much hand-wringing from the liberals about that. But this is a different level altogether. This is as concrete an example of totally ignoring the proper democratic process and having Canadians consent to digital identity verification without anything passing in the House of Commons, no laws whatsoever.
Is he right? I mean, I have no reason to log into the Service Canada portal, so I don't know. Right? I don't have a verification number or anything. So when I try to log in there, I can't really get past the first step. So I had to look something up, and this is what I found. Google AI says Canada's digital ID service is a government initiative led by the Canadian Digital Service to create a secure and convenient way for Canadians to prove their identity online and in person. So we all know what that means. Oh, yeah, it makes it easy for you. And it's so secure. Tired of digging around in drawers and pockets for ID cards? Well, you only need the one now. And pretty soon you'll be able to buy things with it. You won't need anything else, just this card. Everything in your life will be attached to this card. While a full national digital ID system is under development, specific digital identity validation tools are already available, such as the one used by the Canada Revenue Agency for immediate access to online accounts without waiting for a security code by mail, which takes, well, I guess mail doesn't exist anymore. And Cheryl Gallant, the CPC MP, one of the CPC MPs from the Toronto area, told us why a couple of nights ago. It's another way to make sure that everything we do is done online by taking away Canada Post. It's not gone yet, but it will be soon, the way they're dealing with the current situation. So AI, very, very interesting. Look at this story. Came out today. All Canadian citizens to be photographed when entering and exiting the U.S. New regulations state. New regulations by the Department of Homeland Security will impact all non-citizens, including minors under 14 and seniors over 79. Why do they want to? It's for your safety. Well, not the foreigner's safety, but the safety of Americans. It's always for your safety. The security initiative is intended to build a comprehensive biometric data collection aimed at improving identity verification, combating visa overstays, and reducing passport fraud. It will involve the use of facial recognition technology, matching live images of travelers with government records at all entry and exit points, including airports, seaports, and land borders. That's getting into the United States, my friends. Now, you may remember about 6 months ago, Donald Trump did this press conference with all the billionaires, including Larry Ellison of Oracle. And they announced something called Project Stargate. And here's the story. This goes back to January 21st. 3 top tech firms announced they will create a new company, Stargate it's called, to grow artificial intelligence infrastructure in the United States. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, SoftBank CEO Masayoshi Son, and Oracle Chairman Larry Ellison appeared at the White House alongside Trump to announce the company, which Trump called the largest AI infrastructure project in history. And at the time, we were going, WTF, man? What the hell's going on here? This is something we absolutely don't need. But we let it go because Trump was already doing such amazing things in other areas. The companies will invest $100 billion in the project to start, with plans to pour up to $500 billion into Stargate in the coming years. The project is expected to create 100,000 U.S. jobs, Trump said. Stargate will build, and I believe that's what these photographs are all about. At least this is the beginning of it, my friends. This is the beginning. Stargate will build the physical and virtual infrastructure to power the next generation of AI, including data centers around the country, Trump said. Ellison said the group's first 1 million square foot data project is already under construction in Texas. AI leaders have for months been sounding the alarm that more data centers, as well as the chips and electricity and water resources to run them, are needed to power their artificial intelligence ambitions in the coming years. So what do you think? Is it worth it for Canada to just go, all right, man, you win. That little border that we have there along the 49th parallel, will just wipe it off the map. We don't need it. Is it about Trump's, what does he call it? The Golden Dome Initiative? Keeping the entire Western Hemisphere safe? Photographed biometric data, facial recognition, just to get in and leave the United States? Are you freaking kidding me right now? I'm sorry, man, but I'm not interested. I'm not interested in going to the United States. People have asked me, hey, you got to come down here, man. I'll say, yeah, I don't know if I'd ever be able to get back into Canada. To be completely honest with you. Stellantis doesn't mind going to the United States, though, the big auto manufacturer. And they're going to take our money with them, apparently. Oh, and the jobs that they were supposed to have created here. Here's Mario for the North.
And all we've got from this minister is political theater. She's bragging about who she gets on the phone. She's bragging about the tough talks she's having. Here's the thing. If they actually included a jobs protection clause in the contract, all they have to do is invoke it. I'm starting to get a terrible feeling. I'm starting to worry that they signed a $15 billion deal with Stellantis and didn't include a guarantee to protect those Canadian jobs. 100%. Can the minister tell Canadians very clearly, explicitly, did they include a jobs protection plan for all jobs at Stellantis when they forked over $15 billion?
She wants to.
Speaker, I know that my colleague is trying to spook Canadians, but I just would like to remind him that the support that was given to the company was linked to the production of batteries, and therefore no money is spent.
There it is. The $15 billion was tied to the production of batteries. So technically, you could actually have AI bots and automation building those batteries. You see, most Canadians don't know this, but before the government shells out any sort of money, what they do is they rely on third-party services. These third-party services and consultants are the ones they lean on in case anything goes wrong, so then they have paperwork to be able to back up their, in this case, subsidy. I would love to see the Conservative Party ask for is the economic impact study that was done before the $15 billion was given, because that will outline the decision-making process of why they gave $15 billion and how many jobs we were supposed to get in return. And I thought about what I said before, and I told everyone if it were me, I would be suing for that money. But that actually doesn't make any sense, because when you have a clause like that in a contract, you can simply invoke it. You can literally go to Stellantis and say, hey, we need all that money back. You breached your contract. This is the clause. You're supposed to maintain X amount of thousands of jobs in in Brampton, because that's where Stellantis' facilities were, and wherever else they were going to build their batteries. She didn't say that. Here's the most insane part of it all. When Stellantis announced their layoffs, they told people, it was almost like throwing it in their faces, we're going to make a $13 billion investment, the biggest ever in our history in America. That's what they told Canadians when they laid them off. How is it that our government is giving them $15 billion, $2 billion more than the biggest investment they've ever made in their history? And now that money that we gave them is potentially gone. And there was no performance clause. The clause wasn't meant on jobs, it's how many batteries were produced. This is ridiculous. Canada is giving $15 billion of our money and we're in the position of power. We couldn't protect those jobs in the contract? Are you kidding?
The man makes good points, doesn't he? However, we do have to bring up this story because I think he may have missed something here. Conservative MP Raquel Dancho, vice chair of the House of Commons Industry and Tech panel, put forward a motion on Wednesday. She said it was shocking to hear of this decision by Stellantis leaving Canada, in light of the Liberal government's financial support for the company in recent years, which she incorrectly stated was $15 billion. It would appear, based on the actions from Stellantis, that despite these multi-billion-dollar taxpayer subsidies, there was not a requirement in those deals to safeguard the broader Stellantis employment footprint in Canada, and that is frankly unacceptable, Dancho said before the committee passed the motion. The federal government has pledged up to $10 billion in production subsidies to Nexstar Energy, the joint venture between Stellantis and LG Energy Solution that's behind the battery plant. The other $5 billion is coming from the provincial government. Either way, it's coming out of our pockets. The federal government has also promised $500 million in capital investment and has doled out $268 million of that amount as of March of last year. Stellantis previously received nearly $105 million to retool its Brampton and Windsor assembly plants as well. Industry Minister Melanie Joly, how is she still in government? How is she still a cabinet minister? It's amazing. She said in those agreements, Stellantis agreed to maintain its full Canadian footprint, including Brampton, in exchange for substantial financial support. Its full Canadian footprint, including Brampton, in exchange for substantial financial support. That's what she said. So we've got to hear all sides of the story. Of course, we know who we should believe, but we still have to play out the whole thing, right? Should Stellantis choose not to respect its obligations, Joly said, we will act in the interest of all Canadians and hold the company to full account, exercise all options, including legal. So there you go. Country's a mess either way you slice it. Over at the Bureau, Sam Cooper says, Trudeau Liberals open door to Mexican cartels with visa removal. Carney must reverse that damage now. In December of 2016, despite intelligence warnings that lifting visas would facilitate travel to Canada by Mexicans with criminal records, Justin Trudeau ended the visa requirement for Mexican visitors. Because it's 2016. And there's unicorns and rainbows everywhere. They would include drug smugglers, human smugglers, recruiters, money launderers, foot soldiers, the Canada Border Services Agency's intelligence section wrote in a report dated April 2016. But we know now that Trudeau didn't read those reports. This was 2 months before Trudeau announced the visa exemption. What followed was striking. CBSA figures show serious crime flags tied to Mexican nationals jumped from 28 in 2015 to 53 in 2016, an 89% year-over-year rise. By mid-2017, the figure reached 65, with national security flags in the first half of that year exceeding the previous 2 years combined. Those CBSA intelligence reports released under access to information laws were unambiguous. Analysts warned that removing visas would enable entry by major cartels, including Sinaloa, Jalisco New Generation Cartel, La Familia Michoacana, and Los Zetas. Ottawa went ahead anyway. Now we've got Mexican drug cartels set up nicely, labs and everything in our country. The gap between Trudeau's rhetoric and his government's own intelligence is glaring. Lifting the visa requirement will deepen ties between Canada and Mexico and will increase the flow of travelers, ideas, and businesses between both countries, Trudeau declared at the time. But internal CBSA assessments predicted the opposite. Should the visa requirement on Mexican nationals be lifted, the number of Mexican nationals traveling to Canada is expected to rise, which will increase the number of potentially inadmissible individuals. Other reports detailed South American theft groups using genuine or forged Mexican passports to enter Canada and run shoplifting, break and enter, and distraction theft rings, including a Toronto-based recruiter who escorted others into the country. These were not hypotheticals. They were active cases documented by Ottawa's own border intelligence units, which the Trudeau government ignored. For more, go to the Bureau on Substack. That is Sam Cooper's thing. We're going to get to that Niagara Falls story in just a second. So I'm not sure if you guys have noticed, depending on where you live, I guess, but especially in the last few years, our country seems to have been overrun with, well, South Asians. Foreign temporary workers, international students, you name it. That family clause that was introduced a few months ago. So now you can bring your grandma, your great-grandma, your great-aunt, cousins, third cousins. I'm kidding. I'm exaggerating, obviously, but you can bring anybody you want to. It seems like, anyway. How many times have you felt outnumbered in your own country just walking into a convenience store? Like, what country am I in? Have you seen those pictures from Brampton, Niagara Falls? Just people waiting at bus stops, man? Is there truly a heritage Canadian in the bunch? Doesn't seem to be. There's a guy called Kulbir Chawla, and he is an immigrant, well, former immigrant. He's now a Canadian citizen from India. And he's against all of this. So somebody sent me a video of his, because Diwali was this past week, right? And all these celebrations all across the country. Lots of them too, because there's lots of Indians here. So somebody sent me a video that Kulbir made a few days ago. And I watched it and I went, wow, I like this guy's insight. And so we're going to have him on the show next Wednesday night. He's done a lot of investigation as to, I guess, something he calls the Indian mafia, which has infiltrated convenience stores, infiltrated the trucking industry, and now is attempting to take over the oil industry in Alberta. That's what he believes is going on. He's got firsthand knowledge of it. Here's what he had to say regarding Diwali celebrations in Canada.
Guys, this is about Diwali. So I'm seeing videos in which houses are getting on fire here in Canada. I saw a Punjabi video in which Edmonton, somewhere, possibly in Millwoods, house is on fire. And of course the neighboring house is on fire. Now this is Diwali here. Festival of Lights. Well, I'll talk about the history of Diwali. It's a festival of lights and fights. So there were two kings, one from North India and the other from South India, and they were fighting. And one is considered as God, like prophet God, right, in the Hindu history. I think this is about 10,000 years ago or so. And some scholars would say like it's like a couple of 100,000 of years ago. But if more on a historical Wikipedia type of thing, it would pop up as 10,000 years ago, for example, like around that time, BCE, whatever they call it, 10,000 back. Now, this is a festival which is of major importance in India. Now, as the mass legal immigration flooding is happening, mass legal, not the illegal ones, not the Muslim immigration, I'm talking about the East Indian immigration. So when it's happening in a mass way here, legal ones, so obviously all the festivals come in, all the whole culture comes in, the whole shops come up, the entire thing, right from cradle to the grave. I mean, they don't have the grave, it's a burning of cremation system. But what I'm saying, the entire thing comes, including the religion now. And I thought we came for professional reasons. The rest of it will be like Santa Claus and Mickey Mouse type of thing. And we'll have our religion or our culture in our minds. Yes, we'll respect it. Not to know that this will be like a whole ecosystem out here, with that dominating the rest of it. So when Diwali, okay, this is a whole big thing, but specifically because these days are Diwali days and the houses in Canada are catching fire in this festival of lights. I call it lights and fights because this is history. You ask any East Indian, they'll tell you it was a fight between the two kings. One was the good guy, one was the bad guy. I mean, their perspectives on that. And then you bring it here now because this is your cultural DNA and all of it comes in here. And then what's left out of Canada? Canada doesn't remain Canada at all. It becomes like a colony of India. I'm telling you, literally it becomes a colony of India. And as far as from a law and order perspective, from a safety perspective, I think Diwali should be completely banned in the sense of all fireworks should be completely banned publicly on that day. Not a firework should be allowed on Diwali. So, because, I mean, no, yeah, I can debate more on it. In India, Valentine's Day, I don't celebrate Valentine's myself. I'm a conservative, orthodox kind of a guy. But that doesn't mean that I would keep quiet when physically people are actually violent fights happen if you get into Valentine's Day there. Because that's against their religion and culture. It's more like a romantic thing in today's world. So they don't like it and they literally even kill people there. Jesus statues are vandalized. They're even on legal orders, they're removed. Look up legal orders against removal of Christian symbols. Even if it's Mother Mary, many of you may not resonate with that, Catholic, Protestant thing, right? But I want to keep off it. In general, the Christian symbolism in India is both legally, removed many times and also vandalized, a whole big narrative. And here, Diwali, diversity, accommodation, inclusiveness. Wow. What a fall, my countrymen. What a fall. What a fall this country is. What a big SH show this has become. So anyways, somebody of influence, here's my video. We would request that Diwali, in the sense of the lights and this fireworks, should be completely phased out, aka banned from Canada. It should be legally banned. It's a law and order nuisance here in Canada. People's houses are getting on fire, and these are not like scattered houses. These are in neighborhoods in which the whole neighborhood is at risk. Thank you, friends.
Yeah, so he's coming on next Wednesday night, and we're going to talk a lot more about all of this Indian immigration that's come here. He did say something like a colony of India. Canada becomes a colony. It's how it feels. And he has done a lot more investigation, he tells me. So it's going to be an interesting discussion on Wednesday night. John Carpay from the JCCF joins the show on Tuesday night. So let's throw this one up here. This is one that I talked about earlier. The Canadian Constitution Foundation has filed a constitutional challenge in support of a group of women who were arrested for silently protesting during a Niagara Falls City Council meeting on June 17th. The application, Lauren O'Connor, was among the demonstrators arrested for holding small paper signs which read, "The Women of Ontario say no," to advocate for stronger accountability for local officials facing criminal charges. This is one of the things we're going to be talking about with John Carpay on Tuesday night. How come I can't record my local town council's meeting? Well, it's against the rules. I'm sorry, but you can't say that. That's unconstitutional. That's absolutely ridiculous. Big rally coming up in Edmonton tomorrow at the Alberta Legislature. It is the AM ALBERTA Rally. The Alberta Prosperity Project is putting this one on. They're expecting upwards of 50,000, anywhere between 10 and 50,000 people, from what I understand from Carrie Lambert. And here's Mitch Silvestri talking about how to change a culture from within. Kind of like what's going on around us right now.
We don't need another Conservative Party. I think we get another Conservative Party, we split the vote. I've always believed that we should work inside the UCP Party and replace the bad people that are in it. And I think that's the way I see this, because it takes 12 to 15 years to get a new party elected. I don't think we got 12 to 15 years. So as far as I'm concerned, that's what I'm saying. Use one of my 10 days and come to the AGM and show these guys that you exist. And they all want to get back in, right? Like, I've had phone calls from ministers that are understanding that I am going to do my very best to primary them out if they don't have our shared values. And they're doing the same thing. Like, this is totally legal and it's total democracy. But the whole thing is, if they're scared enough, then they'll change the way they do things. And that's our whole system. And the only thing that'll scare them is you guys showing up. I promise you, it'll scare them. So you just got to show up and continue to show up.
You imagine if 50,000 people showed up in Edmonton tomorrow for this AM ALBERTA rally. Whoa, that would send a clear message. And, you know, if you're on the other side of it, you can say, well, it's only 50,000. There's 5 million people here. Yeah, but you got to think of the effort that it takes for people to do something like that. Because generally speaking, these are average, everyday Albertans. They're not people that go to rallies on the regular, right? But they believe in something enough, they're going to show up. 50,000 may as well represent 500,000 or even 1 million or more. The AM ALBERTA Rally in Edmonton at the Alberta Ledge tomorrow. They're bussing people in from all over the province. It starts at 4 o'clock. It wraps up at 6 o'clock. There's transportation from Grand Prairie. I'm not even sure if you can get on these buses anymore. You can try if you're in Alberta and you want bus transportation to get to Edmonton. They are providing that. It's going to cost you, like obviously the cost of a bus ticket to get from, say, Grand Prairie to Edmonton. That would be $80. But anyway, it's albertaprosperity.com, albertaprosperity.com. You guys, it would be amazing to see 100,000 people there. Send a very, very loud message. Ever heard of Amigo Films? Amigo Films. Here is the website here, amigostudios.com. In a time of corruption, a revolutionary act. Now, they're telling us that Liam Neeson is narrating this new film, which comes out next month, called Plague of Corruption. Plague of Corruption. And here's the trailer.
In every great fortune, there's a crime.
Pharmaceutical giant Pfizer has raised its full-year sales estimate for the COVID-19 vaccine to $45 billion.
You want me scared, you want me weak.
There was a linear correlation between the amount of thimerosal the child had and the probability of autism, but they weren't going to tell anyone about it, and there were, secret meetings thereafter, how to hide the data.
You want me brain dead and asleep.
No matter how grievous your injury is, no matter how negligent the company, no matter how sloppy their line protocols, you cannot sue them for injuring you.
You want us trapped while you all laugh.
And these purple patches under her skin started appearing at the top of her head and then just started spreading.
You want us sick.
I believe we're designed to eat animals. I don't believe we're designed to have them injected into our bloodstream.
Why do they do it in animals? They do it because they have to develop the disease in animals to test their drugs to treat the disease that are caused by the adjuvant in the vaccine, which is the definition of crazy.
The scientific community prostituted itself on the altar of American capitalism, which is completely irresponsible morally.
It's the race to the ethical bottom.
You want our time, you want us framed up in your crimes. I hope you know that it's time to go, and we're taking names.
Tony Fauci is one of the most powerful people in the world. Oh, he should be in prison for what he did to those babies.
Senior officials from the Biden administration pressured our teams for months to censor certain COVID-19 content.
This vaccine mandate was more detrimental to medical readiness than the 20-year war in Iraq and Afghanistan.
3 heart attacks and a stroke.
Cheats and crooks, change the rules and you burn the books. And so I don't believe a single word you say. You're all liars, fakes and cons. Want you out and we want you gone. So don't believe this time you'll get away.
Whoa, plague of corruption. So here's the website. You can actually go to an online preview. It's all on the website here, amigostudios.com. November the 16th, it's a Sunday, 8 o'clock Eastern, and there's going to be an after party, online after party with filmmakers. Yeah, I may just do that. That would definitely be cool because this looks interesting. And there's more and more films coming out like that. All we have to do is get people to see them, sit down and watch them. We're on our way after that because once they figure that out, then everything else kind of falls into place. That's it for tonight, you guys. I love you all. I appreciate you all. Back on Monday night at 8 o'clock for All Access. We got a special David Icke from 2001. He's, it's interesting because I got into a conversation with our friend Jamie Saleh today, and we hadn't talked in a while. And so we were talking about this thing that we're both going to be attending next week virtually, and it runs very deep. You know how I'm always asking why? What's the real purpose? What's going on? Who's really running the show? Who's the puppeteers? And she does the same thing. And so there's a few people in the country who've got some answers. And that got me thinking, yeah, we should go a little bit deeper tonight in the extension. So I found this great old film from 2001. All about David Icke. He talks about everything. Now, you can believe him or not, but a lot of what he says certainly makes sense. And that's coming up in the extension in just a couple of minutes on shadowdavis.com. If you're a new All Access member and you haven't signed up for the Telegram group, go sign up for the Telegram group. It's called the Shadow at Night Community. Shadow like it's spelled right at the bottom of the screen. Shadow at Night Community on Telegram. Go join there. There's all kinds of amazing people who will welcome you there with open arms. We'll see you there in a couple of minutes. The rest of you, have a great weekend. I'll catch you on Monday night at 8 o'clock Central for another episode. Bye for now. Shadow at Night live stream, as always, is brought to you by CanadaNanoSilver.com.
I've been struggling with acne for a while, and my mom brought me SilverCeuticals, and I did not want to try it at first because I hate all that stuff on my face. But I'm super glad I did because it hydrates my skin, doesn't leave me dry. I don't use coconut oil on it anymore. And I'm super glad my mom showed me it, and I'm glad she's showing other people because I think it does wonders. Some of the other things I love about SilverCeuticals is that it's natural, it's not a pharmaceutical, and it just makes your skin glow and feel super hydrated. You don't feel like dry at all, and it just keeps that way for the entire day, and that's awesome. I've had a few people comment on how my face has cleared up. It's mostly been family members, and once my mom told them what I was using, they finally started using it too, and they're seeing great results as well. If a kid told me that they were struggling with skin issues, I'd 100% recommend SilverCeuticals because it fixes everything and it's amazing.